Hey folks, thanks for watching. I'm here with Caroline Moncure, the marketing manager of Morales Method, and wanted to put another video to continue our discussion, continue our um, contribution to all of you body workers, massage therapists, yoga teachers, Pilates instructors, personal trainers. Um, who are dealing with this shutdown and this global crisis of COVID-19. So thank you, Caroline, for joining, and want to make this talk mainly about staying home and making sure that we do the right thing, as so many of our local regulations and local governments are calling for a shelter in place. Um, so the date is April 7th, and this kind of came about from uh, the email that came from the California Massage Therapy Council. So the email, I have a printout here. The email was sent out on Sunday, April 5th, and it basically reiterates the urgency for sheltering in place, for staying indoors, and not seeing clients. So I believe CAMTC kind of responded to what they may have heard of, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Caroline, that some practitioners were actually seeing clients underground, kind of a black market scenario where they were working on people. Um, and I think you have the wording there, Caroline, but they were basically saying that you have to abide by local regulations. And if you were not, and they found out, there's a potential for um, your certification to be revoked.
I do want to add that ABNP also put out, again, their FAQ was really helpful that I looked through recently. And one of the things that they mentioned is that if you aren't in compliance with your local regulations, you're actually not covered by your insurance.
Right, right. So, this is really important, folks. And, I did a kind of a talk to a couple of students recently, and they came back with, real world scenarios. And one of them said, well, what if you need to work? And, I don't have an answer for all of this. And, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of us have the answer. But we do understand that some people need money, that they need money to live, money for food, shelter, all of this. And I know that some people are then going off and seeking other work, are seeking to work at other places in the meantime in order to make money to pay for all the necessities. But if you are able to do that, I think that's a good alternative. But continuing to work in this situation where there's a potential for giving someone the illness, or catching it yourself, working in that situation makes things really risky. And I understand that it's difficult, and I understand that people feel like the end is near, and something needs to happen. But we will get through this. We will get through this. It won't be easy, but we will get through it. um, I'm also not going to pretend that it's going to be over right away, and it'll change from one day to the next, and you'll have the same practice that you had before all this. This is going to take time. But I think there was an article that came out from ABMP magazine that offered some alternatives for people. If you're self-employed and have your own business, you absolutely should start looking into disaster relief through SBA.gov. And if not, then contact your local government, find out what potential programs they may have. And now, like I said, at April 7th, there are now organizations, they're either law firms or CPA firms, that are helping people navigate this whole kind of SBA loan or SBA lending program or other lending programs. So there is help, there is information out there. We need to, in essence, kind of shift our work. I was telling some of these students that my job has now shifted from, seeing clients and all of that to dedicating time in the morning to look into all this and applying for all of this, all of these programs. So instead of thinking I need to keep working, I think we need to shift our mindset a little bit and say, well, what can we do to keep living? What do we need to do? It may not necessarily be seeing clients, uh, uh, to continue to see clients. You have anything to add there, Caroline?
For those of you that have, one of the shifts that we could possibly do is starting to do some of our work virtually. And I did read a FAQ sent out by ABMP, and there was one note that they had made about double checking with whoever your insurance provider is on the guidelines of doing work virtually versus doing work in person. There are some different things that you might need to be keeping in mind. So just if you are going to make that sort of shift as the way that you decide to handle this, I would recommend to look into whatever the guidelines are from your insurance provider as to doing virtual care.
Yes, great point. Great point, Caroline. We definitely can shift our practice to seeing some folks virtually, and whatever that looks like, and however, whatever structure that takes. Some of us can do that easier than others. But yeah, definitely look into your regulations and go from there. Make sure that you're just following your regulations. Um, there were a few questions that were sent out after our last Zoom meeting, so I kind of want to address these relatively quick form. If our massage businesses are closed now, when do we decide to reopen, regardless of what state, local, or federal mandates indicate if the risk of exposure to COVID-19 remains? Um, we this kind of goes back to what CAMTC kind of sent out. We are currently a non-essential business, so we have to follow what the local and state regulations dictate. So once they tell us that we can open, then I would say that we can open. Right now, CAMTC made it very clear, and I'm assuming other organizations in other states will make it very clear that we can't work until we're told that we can. Um, I can't tell you when that's going to be. My hope is that it's sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, we've had some body workers that are already closing their practice, shutting down permanently, moving out of state, doing all of this because of the financial impact. And that's unfortunate. But I'd rather abide by um, local, state, or federal regulations, take the bumps and bruises instead of risking getting someone sick.
I do want to add to that. Another thing in some of these groups that I've been seeing is a reaction about the CAMTC not necessarily having teeth, and that there's an an interesting reaction to that. That even though they may be threatening to take away their license, that they're in their sunset year. So, what does that even mean anyway? And all these sorts of comments. I wanted to know what you thought about that sort of idea that if your CAMTC license was revoked right now, even if CAMTC may be on the way out this year, how would that affect potentially getting licensing and whatever new setup may be in place afterward, and things to consider like that, that even though you may have had a bad record with CAMTC, like that will likely show up when you're trying to set up your licensing for the next phase, whatever the new establishment is after this.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it could look like. I can't say for sure. I'm not on the board.
I
I
guess I'm not asking you to say what it looks like, more just what. having that mark on your record, that's likely not something that you would want to look for at this time. That again, that they do still have an effect when you apply for those things. Have you ever had a complaint put against you? Those sorts of questions are often ones that are asked, and that would be something you would have to say at that time. It would follow you, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yes, yes, and so that would be my response. It will follow you. I don't know in what form, but it will follow you in some form. And maybe it won't follow you with regards to your record as a massage therapist with, CAMTC or whatever might be the new version of the California Massage Therapy Council. May not be part of that, but it'll follow you in some other form, I believe. We have already heard of other massage therapists and other uh, massage establishments kind of going underground and remaining open. And I'll tell you that that doesn't look good. That's not a good look. And I think some of us will remember that, going forward. Not saying I can judge, because who am I to judge? And I don't know everyone's full picture, full story. But that type of stuff kind of sticks with us, how people act, how people react, how people respond during a situation like this. So I think to some extent it will follow you somehow. The opposite is true. If how we help, how we show compassion, how we communicate, that will also follow us. So I believe that, um, uh, you know, communicating with clients, friends, colleagues, peers, teachers, students, checking in, showing compassion, all of that also, reaps dividends to some level. So, I would say my big thing is, um, think about what you're doing, even if you don't think there are ramifications, legal ramifications. Kind of give it some thought. Think about what you're doing before you decide to go out there. And if people really have um, a dire financial need, then they need to reach out to someone and see if they can get pointers. I know that there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of links, and there's a myriad of links that go to links that go to links, and eventually may take you to the same page. But sooner, hopefully, rather than later, we'll start to get a kind of a more settled approach to relief. So my hope is that people will get the help that they need. And if you're not getting the help that you need, reach out to someone. If you want, email me, info@moralesmethod.com, or you can go to the resource page that we put up on the moralesmethod.com website. What's the name of that? Is it moralesmethod.com/resources? Yes, great. So, go to that page, and if you don't see what you're looking for, contact us, info@moralesmethod.com. We'll put a link to what we know up there right away. In conclusion, don't go out there and work, even though you think you absolutely need the money, even though you think you're not going to get caught. Please, 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 let's rethink this. And once this all settles, we can start to rebuild and have a great practice, hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you, Caroline, and thank you for helping me put this together. So that's it, folks. If you have any questions, again, you can contact us. We'll be putting more of these out as we get information. We'll be sharing it on our resources page as well. And thanks again, and we'll see you soon.